Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to week 8 of our Microsoft Office class. This is Mark Evans, your instructor here again. Hope that you're enjoying the class and learning a little bit about the different software programs that make up the whole Microsoft Office. From the beginning of the semester or term, we've looked at Microsoft Outlook. We've looked at OneNote. We've worked a little bit in Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. And over the last couple of weeks, we've spent a lot of time working on Microsoft Excel. Hope that you've picked up some good pointers and things that will help you use those programs. And we're going to make a transition here in week 8 and probably take on one of the more difficult software programs in Microsoft Office, probably one of the least used for the average person. That's the Microsoft Access database. One of the big headaches with learning Microsoft Access is going to be terminology. Just like in Excel, we have rows and columns and cells and cell addresses and formulas. When we look at Microsoft Access, we will likewise hear some very distinct terminology that we have to get our hands on. One of the first things that you'll see when we use Microsoft Access is the program will make you do a save as immediately. So when you start a new database, the first thing it's going to make you do is save the file, which is quite different than what you see in other programs. Other programs you can do all kind of work and then it will ask you whether you want to save it or not. Access makes you save the program. So that's one of the first things that you run into. Another terminology issue with Microsoft Access is called records. Records and fields and that sort of thing. So where in Excel we call them rows and columns, a row in Microsoft Access is a record. And so it takes a little bit of getting used to there. Access is a relational database, whereas if you'll remember when we were talking a little bit about databases in Excel, we called Excel a simple database. It was on one page. It was very easy to use and it was limited into what it could do, but it's very useful on a day-to-day basis. Access is a much more powerful program, and it allows you to do relational fields and stuff. And what I mean by that is that we can set up various tables. In Excel, a table is called a sheet. In Access, it's called a table. So we can build multiple tables and input a variety of information in those tables, and by using a primary key we are able to pull information from any of those tables if they all have the right key. So let me give you a quick example. Let's say that I start a student database for American National University, and in the first table I build out student name, student address, phone number, contact information, just some of your basic personal information, and I create a table. You can remember that a table and a sheet is the same thing if you're thinking from an Excel standpoint. Let's create a second table that may have all of your financial aid information. Let's create a third table that may have all of the classes that you need to take to graduate. And then let's create another table with maybe your financial aid or your bookstore information or what have you. So we have, if you were thinking Excel, 4 or 5 sheets there. If we're talking about Access, we have 4 or 5 tables. Now each row in a table is called a record. We fill it out and it's very unique information in that row, okay, or record. We start out, when we do this, set up this whole thing by creating a primary key. And a primary key in the case of our example would be a student ID, a social security number, something like that, something that is very unique to the person. So in table 1, which is your general information, contact, everything like that, the very first column or information that should be there is the primary key. Okay, and we will use, let's say, social security number as the example. In the second table that we create, which may be your financial aid, the first record is also social security number. In the third table, the fourth table, fifth table, etc., all will have that same key or that same piece of information. Okay, so if I have one table or 5 tables, I'm going to use Social Security number and make it a primary key. What happens then is I go ahead and I populate that information later with classes, with financial aid, with any kind of information that we want to put in the database about the student. Later, there will be questions that we need to answer. How many classes have they taken? How much money do they owe? What were their grades? What's their phone number? Any number of questions that may come up about a student. What we are able to do is create a query or a question and have it look across all 5 of those tables, if you will, and it will pull up the information that we're asking no matter where it's at. That's why it's called relational. Each one of those tables are related to the other one by the Social Security number. Okay, so when I do a question, I don't put in, hey, what's Mark's phone number? I put in Mark's Social Security number or his student ID, whatever I'm using, and any of the information, no matter where it's at in the database, I can get to it. A query is a written question that we search the database for information for, so you'll learn to write queries. You can save that query if it's something that you're going to ask a lot of times, and it'll always be there. So just like in Excel, a lot of database work is done on the front end, and then on the back end is where we really enjoy it because it does the work for us. So after queries, we have what we call reports. Let's say that you work at the college, and once a month someone wants to know information about what classes still remain for certain students. Okay, so I can simply write a query that says, show me unfinished classes, if you will, or show me finished classes. And then I can create a report that basically takes the information from that question and creates a report to tell me what I want it to look like. I can design that report with letterhead, with pictures, any kind of things that we want it to be, because we can make it an official report that we print out every week, every month, whatever, and give it to our bosses or use it for whatever reason. Now the beauty of that is, if we build the database with all the records and all the tables, and we create queries, we create reports, all of that is saved, and if it's something that you're going to use over and over again, you never have to redo it unless there's some kind of change you need to make to it. All you really have to do, pull it up, print it out, and there you go. So databases allow a lot of information manipulation, makes it easy for us to find things. And just as a real practical example, if you ever go out to Amazon Prime, and shop for Christmas or birthdays or any of those sorts of things, you're actually using a database. They build a shell or a interface that's easy for me or you to see and read, but behind the scenes, it's nothing more than a database. We put in an order, which is kind of like a query. It goes out and looks at all the inventory, comes back and says, yeah, we have these, and here's the cost. Then we fill out the information into another table that's a database, and the next thing you know, we've bought that product. So you use databases every day in a lot of different ways, and you may not even know it. So with all of that said, that's a whole lot to learn. We're only going to look at Access for 1 week, so I don't get too upset if you struggle a little bit with it. Usually Access is at least a class all by itself, if not more. But it'll give you a good taste of what you can do with databases. Other than that, I just want to remind you that we have done 4 Zoom conferences. Each of those are worth 100 points. If you have not watched those, please watch them. Send me an email. Let me know that you did. There are 100 points that goes towards your assignment grade. I'll do one more here soon, which will give you a total of 5. And if you've done all of those, that's 5 100s. That will certainly help your grade. If you don't know whether you did them or not, look at the grade book. There will be zeros in the Zoom conference columns in your grade book if you have not done them. With that said, I look forward to working with you this week on Access. I hope that you have a great week. We'll see you soon.